I'm going to leave. I feel like today I'm a robot. I have one thing to talk, one thing to listen. Hopefully you'll understand me, because I don't understand you. There seems to be a lot of controversy in the room today, and I need a, there it is. There we go. There seems to be a lot of controversy in the room today, because it seems like there's a number of different parties, from production companies to advertising agencies to television channels. So just so I know, so that I don't get shot later, how many people here are from production companies? If you could raise your hand, please. Okay. How many people here are from brands? Okay. And from television stations? Where is everybody else from? Okay, so I come from the United States. I run an agency called Big Fuel that I started about 7, 8 years ago. And we are a branded content and social media agency. We work with, and I should probably start this. Okay. We work with some very large brands globally. We help brands like Philips and General Motors, Sheridan, and McDonald's and Budweiser. We help them in the world of branded content and social media, and we help them drive what we call consumer engagement or customer engagement, because the discipline of branded content is about engagement. It's about creating a connection to the customer, right? It's more than just an advertisement. It's about telling stories, right? It's about engaging. And so I'm going to spend a little time today doing a couple of things. First, I'm going to tell you a little bit about content from my perspective, because what I've heard today a lot is television, television, television. Okay, that's one thing. But in today's world, as we heard from YouTube and a number of others, branded content can live in a lot of places. Branded content can live online. It can live on your phone. It can live in blogs. It can live on Facebook, on YouTube. There's a number of places that give brands opportunities to connect with consumers. And TV is just one. And it's also the hardest one, which is why I think there's a lot of controversy in the room today. So the first thing I want to do is just talk for 1 minute about marketing with content, what it actually means and how people are doing it. And the first thing we should say is, I run an agency. My background actually is in television. I've never worked at an advertising agency other than my own. I come from a world where I used to produce content for Disney and for MTV, and so I understand the world of content. And I never really understood the world of advertising until about 7, 8 years ago when I started doing this. And something changed in terms of how we talk to brands and how we think about content in the world of brands. And if you look at the advertising spectrum, you can see here there's the media model. When we talk about media, there's paid media. I can run commercials, I can run banner ads, I can take my message as a brand and place it in front of people by writing a check. Then there's this world now of earned media. People talking to other people about the brand, word of mouth, reputation, social media, PR. And now, this world of content, I think, lives in a whole different bucket. It's a whole different world that I call owned media. It's an opportunity for brands to own content, okay? That's going to make some of the TV channels a little upset, because the TV channels are in the business of owning content. And for the first time, brands have an opportunity to own content, maybe outside of TV, maybe inside of TV, but it's an opportunity for them to start building audiences of their own, for brands to become their own channel, right? So if you look at the world of media and you put all three of these things together, paid, earned, and owned, they should work together. They should all talk to each other. It's not one or the other. It's not, in the US they say, mutually exclusive. It's not about I do one thing and I don't do something else. As a brand, you have to do it all. You have to manage expectations and you have to be where your customers are. So you have to put together a holistic approach. So let's talk about content for a second, because we have talked a lot about video and TV. So this is a very quick snapshot of Types of content. I said there's videos, but there's also games. There's also blogs. There's also applications, mobile. There's a lot of places where brands can play in the world of content that is not just television. So sorry for you TV folks. Brands find it challenging to navigate the world of content. Why? First, because they don't understand it. They've never been in the business of owning content. They've always been in the business of placing media, writing the check, running the commercial. So when you look at why brands find it challenging, the biggest thing is they don't know how to tell stories. How do you create engaging content? And we heard a lot of talk about that because if you talk to the production companies are in the business of creating content and creating new formats for television, creating new ways to connect with audiences. Okay? Audiences is a good word because brands don't care about audiences. Brands care about consumers. They care about the people who are in the store who are buying the yogurt. They don't care about the song that's being played on TV. They want to sell their product. So there's a conflicting agenda. Right? The production companies love content, the brands want to sell products. So those two don't talk to each other very well. So we have to do a little educating. And branded content, as you heard some of these people talk about today, is a new discipline, so we have to do some educating. So how do you make branded content engaging? When you look at what content is, not advertising, but content, content lives on what I call a spectrum that is about helping or entertaining. It's not about selling. It's about telling stories. It's about helping people. It's about connecting people to things that they care about. Passion. I love music, so I watch this content. I love cars, so I watch races. I love cooking, so I watch cooking shows. I love trivia, I watch the quiz shows. Those are the things that I care about. I don't care about yogurt. I eat yogurt. I buy it. I like certain kinds, but I don't care about it. So when I talk about content, the hardest part is to figure out how to actually connect what brands do, which is sell, or they show their product. So there's two conflicting spectrums. One is about showing and selling the product, features and benefits of a product. My car has 300 horsepower, and so it's a better car than that car. My toothpaste has more fluoride, so I have a better toothpaste. Okay, people don't care. When I wake up in the morning, I don't care about horsepower, and I don't care about toothpaste. What I do care about is music, or the movie I'm going to see tonight, or how to be a better parent, right? Because I have kids, so maybe I want to be a better parent. So the hardest part for us as an agency is that middle piece, the bridge. I call it a bridge. How do you connect selling and entertaining? Because until production companies understand how to talk the language of brands, they'll never be able to build that trust. There was a lot of talk about trust on the panel. And the reason the trust doesn't exist is because the agendas of these conflicting companies, they don't align together, right? So when the trusted advisor of a brand is an agency. Why? Because the agency is there to solve the problem of the brand. A brand might have a bad reputation, so they need help. They might be launching a new product, so they need to get awareness. They need to understand how to connect to consumers, whereas TV channels, entertainment properties, they're about helping, entertaining, and passion. So how do you connect that bridge? How do you connect people to product? That's the key, because branded content is the reverse of traditional advertising. Traditional advertising says, think about your product, define it, tell me what is unique about it, right? Something called the unique selling proposition. The one thing that makes your product different than all your competition. That one thing is what you lead with all your communications. Things that you tell your customer and the reason they should buy your product. But in entertainment, it doesn't work. Nobody cares because it's about people. It's about passion. It's about interest. And so we have to teach the brands how to become publishers. We have to teach the brands how to become entertainment companies. But at the same time, the brands write the check. The brands have the money. And they are the ones that are going to agree or not agree to create your programming or create your content. Why? Because you have to help them solve a problem. And until production companies, agencies in the branded content space understand that, it's going to be very difficult to move things forward. So how do you do that? To create that bridge, there's a place, on one side you see content. On the other side you see commerce, products, selling. How do you connect the two together that are completely different in terms of their agendas? We have something at Big Fuel we call the engagement point. It's a place where those two things come together, right? The reason that one thing can talk to another, you have to find a commonality. You have to find a place that everything intersects. How do you do that? First, you have to look at the audience. What's true about the audience? What's unique about the people you're trying to talk to? And if you try to talk to everybody, you're going to fail. Branded content, social media is not a place for mass communications. It's a place for niche audiences. It's a place to talk to moms. It's a place to talk to dads. It's a place to talk to music fans. It's a place to talk to people who come together around a shared interest. Okay? It's very specific. So who are you talking to? What is true about that audience? Why do they like music? Why do they want to do certain things? Understanding the audience is the first thing. TV channels are very good at that. Understanding audiences. Brands, not so much. But it doesn't stop there. The next thing you have to do is understand what is true about the brand. Why should people care about this particular brand? It's not because you have more horsepower or your Kleenex is better. What is it about the brand? What's the meaning behind the brand? You know, when you look at lifestyle brands like Apple or even Budweiser or certain brands that have meaning beyond the product, they represent something. You have to find those things. And there are places for you to play even with products like yogurt. It doesn't matter. There are places for you to interact. And then the most important thing, which oftentimes gets forgotten, is what are we trying to do? What is the mandate? What is the objective? What are we trying to accomplish? Without that, there's no purpose in doing it. And sometimes, sorry, production companies, we forget that. I used to be in the production business. We used to forget that there's a reason behind this brand wanting to be associated with this content. It's not just about making great stuff to make people laugh or make people cry or make the world a better place. The brand has to accomplish something in order for them to actually write that check for you. So there was a lot of talk about content is king, consumer is king. In the content business, sure, content is king. In the advertising business, the brand is king. The brand is the one who has the money. The brand is the one who controls where they spend. Should they invest in this? Or should they invest in that? And if you want them to invest in what you have to offer, you better help them solve problems. Otherwise, they'll never sign up. So the place where all three of those data sets meet, the place where the audience and the brand and the objective meet, that's a place where you can start to think about how to come up with ideas that actually brands will buy, that brands will get behind, that brands will want to be a part of. And that could be in the form of anything. It could be in the form of online video. It could be in the form of television programming, games. It doesn't matter. OK, so that's a quick summary of that. Now let's talk about a little bit of some rules that we follow in terms of when we work with brands, what is it that we want them to know? Because a lot of this is education. Brands don't know some of these rules. And sometimes production companies don't know some of these rules, and sometimes agencies don't. So it's about educating and understanding how all these different parties can come together. So let's talk about that for a second. First thing, understand your audience. I said this earlier. The content belongs to the audience, right? They're the ones who are going to consume it, and YouTube is proof of that. It's not a one-way channel anymore. People consume content in lots of different ways and places. I send content to people that I like. I share content. People send content to me that they think I will like. I find it through my phone. I find it online. It's not the same as that prime time 9 to 11 hour. I appreciate prime time 9 to 11, but that is such a small piece of the pie. So when you understand your audience, know that they're in control. Also know that it's not about your brand. It's about their brand. me. I'm the person who's going to consume your content. And if you want me to share it, or if you want me to watch it, or if you want me to come back and see it again, you have to make me feel better about myself. You have to help me improve my brand, right? Because for me to share it, I have to look cool. I have to look good. Otherwise, I look like an idiot if I share something that nobody likes. I'm not going to share a commercial, but I might share a music video or that video that we saw with the dancing people in the wedding. That's something that would, if I send it to somebody and they haven't seen it before, my reputation increases. My brand increases as an individual. So understanding the core customer that you're trying to talk to, and then what's the commonality between that audience? What puts those people together? So if you're trying to talk to mom, you're selling yogurt to mom, what does mom want? Mom wants to be a better parent. Mom wants more time in the day. Mom wants to go out on a date with her husband every once in a while. Understanding the dynamic between what your audience wants helps you create content that provides value to his or her life. And of course, think of them as people, not as consumers. That's a note for the brands in the room. Okay, there we go. Sorry. The next thing is understanding relevancy. Relevancy is a very important word that we use, and there's something that we call, and I hope it translates at Big Fuel, we call it the 6 a.m. test. The first thing in the morning when you wake up, can you be relevant as a brand? What is it that mom is thinking about at 6 o'clock in the morning? It's not about what's in her toothpaste. It's about getting the kids off to school, and it's about all these things that are in her life that are important to her. So understanding and being relevant to your audience is a key factor. Also, you have to be relevant to the brand. Creating content for content's sake is a waste of time and money. If you're not helping to solve the problem for the brand, you're not doing your job. So balancing relevancy between the audience and relevancy between the brand is very important. It's very critical. And understanding that as a brand, that relevancy is not features and benefits and your unique selling proposition. It's creating a connection to lifestyle, a connection to passion. That is what creates relevancy. There's something that we call the curse of knowledge. Okay? The curse of knowledge, which I sometimes joke about because we do some business with Colgate. And Colgate makes toothpaste. Okay? Every person at Colgate thinks toothpaste is the greatest thing in the world. They love it. And they think everybody should love it. And so they suffer from the curse of knowledge. And the people they're trying to talk to, they don't care. So knowing and getting outside of your comfort zone and understanding what people do care about is how you become relevant. Because the audience needs to care, not the brand. And there's a quote from a movie, one of my favorite movies growing up as a kid, which I don't even know if we'll translate here, but in a movie called Bill and Ted, there's a line called, "Be excellent to each other." Provide value, provide utility, help your consumer, help your audience be better people. Be valuable to their everyday life. Help them solve their problems in addition to helping the brand solve theirs. And if you can do that, you've created something unique and special. Okay, so a few rules, right? Being relevant, understanding your audience, all those things. But now it comes down time to actually make the content. So let's think about what are the decisions that need to get made. First, you have two options as a brand. Do you want to get married? Do you want to have a long-term relationship? Or do you want to have a quick affair, a quick fling? Because getting into the business of content is a commitment. If you want to truly succeed in branded content, it's about sustaining. It's about continuing the story. It's about connecting with the audience over long term. That's one approach. The other approach is to do lots of quick, fun little things. No relationship, no long-term value. There's no right or wrong answer, but as a brand, you have to decide. What is it that you want to accomplish? Do you want the long-term relationship? Do you want to be able to create a sustainable relationship with your brand? Here's an example of a brand called Kraft that makes lots of foods, cheeses and macaroni and whatnot, and they invest a lot of money in content. And they do it because they have the opportunity to connect with their core customer, provide them with recipes and information, and help mom become a better mom. And for them, the investment, the long-term investment provides value to them. So committing to resources over time, it's expensive. It is a true commitment. And if that, as a brand like Red Bull, has a long-term commitment to content. They're constantly creating new programming, constantly sponsoring new events. It's a lifestyle brand that connects to a certain audience, and they love it. Does your brand fit into that mold? Maybe, maybe not. Doesn't mean you have to do it that way. You can also experiment. You can have a fling. You can have a quick affair with a customer and create quick games or quick apps or short videos that may or may not work. Okay? And that's okay. In the business of content, and some of the folks in the TV world will tell you, half the shows fail, right? Half the shows may succeed, you have a few hits, but most of them fail. And so if you're going to get into the business of content, you have to be okay with that, which means you got to try lots of different things. You have to understand that not everything is going to work, but once you find certain things to work, you can build on it. And that's okay. It's less expensive to have a fling, it's more expensive to get married. Right, in real life too. Okay, the next question is, do you build it or do you buy it? Okay, it's like do you buy a house or do you rent? It's the same concept, right? And because there's content out there, there's existing content out there that you can associate yourself with, okay, that already has audiences, and you can try integrating in that. It may not be as authentic, it may not connect in the same way, but it's also less risky versus building it yourself, investing in the content. And if you remember when I talked about paid media and earned media and owned media, if you truly want to own your media and build audiences over the long term, then you have to invest and you have to connect, but you also have to have a plan. You have to understand, how are you going to distribute your content? Where is that content going to live? What are your objectives? Are you trying to build awareness? Are you trying to build relationships over time? Is it a CRM play? Is it awareness play? Is it a reputation play? What are you trying to accomplish before you go and create all this crazy content? What are you trying to do? That's a very big question, and oftentimes brands forget to ask that, or brands ask it, but when it gets time to actually doing it, by the time it gets to the production company, they're so ready to be consumed with, what's the content? What's the format? How cool is it? And we forget about what the brand is trying to accomplish, and then we wonder why they don't want to do it again. So, let's put it all together for a second. You deliver engagement by staying on a content spectrum, helping and entertaining. So as a brand, that's very different from what you're used to. If you're a brand, you're used to selling, not entertaining. So you have to shift a little bit. Understanding that you have to build a bridge from story to product, because if you don't, then there's no point in doing it. Advertising is about selling, okay? And if anybody in this room doesn't think so, then you're in the wrong business. If you want to get into the branded content world, you have to figure out how to generate awareness, how to get products sold, how to move the yogurt. And if you don't do that, it'll never work. And that's why, it's interesting to hear, I'm going to digress a little bit. It was interesting to hear some of these panelists talk about, the world of production companies and who, what's the relationship and this notion of trust. And I think that's fine. But at the end of the day, it's about understanding how to move things forward. It's about success. And if there's success, there's going to be follow-up. And the more successful you are, the more you're going to do. So if you, as a production company, can't speak the language of a brand, if you can't articulate how to help the brand succeed, and all you want to do is get a check to create the content that you want to create, it will never work. You might do it once, you might do it twice, but that's not a long-term sustainable business model. Okay? If you want to be in the business of branded content, you have to help brands. Right? You can't use the brand as a vehicle to just get your money to produce your shows. And I think what I've seen over the last few years, certainly in the States, is that's what branded content has kind of become. Because there's so many channels now and there's so many programs out there that the dollars are drying up. And so production companies are going, oh my God, the TV channels are not giving me my money to make my shows, so where do I get the money to go make the show that I want to make? I'm going to call the brand and say, hey, I'm going to make this really great program. Can you sponsor it? Can you write the check and we'll integrate you and we'll create some programming? And every once in a while it works if it's a great idea. But for the most part, you can't look at a brand as a checkbook. If you truly want to build value in an industry that is driven by advertising, marketing, media, you have to be able to drive value for your clients. It's a service business. It's not a content business. It's not intellectual property. It's not about creating formats that you can sell all over the world and all that. Advertising and marketing is a service business. It's a client relationship. It's about making that brand manager look good. At the end of the day, too, as we go down these simple rules, can you be relevant? Can you be useful? Can you understand your audience? Do you build? Do you buy? All those things. So, thank you very much. So, I think there's time for questions. I think there's time for some questions, and hopefully someone will translate in my ear if there are questions, please. Or not. Maybe I can go home early. Okay.
Well, you're in the lead compared to us in your country, and what I can see is that in the panel discussion I see who's in charge. So who's in charge in your industry? Who started the whole thing? Who took the step forward? Who was it? The production company or the TV station? You've been talking about TV here, but who put their stakes on this?
The answer, honestly, straight up, the agency. The agency has to believe in what it is that you're trying to do as in the content business, because the agency controls the relationship with the client, okay? The client, no matter what happens, if a production company calls a brand, says, I have a show, I have a program, I want to do it, the brand is going to hang up the phone, and the first phone call they make is to their agency. I have an opportunity. This person called me. Should we do it? Should we not do it? The trusted advisor, the person who drives the business of the brand forward, is the agency. And so the agency has to lead the charge. That's a fact. I mean, and I've seen it when I started my business 7 years ago. We were a production company. And we saw the opportunities to create content, and we saw the opportunities to move this model forward. But it wasn't until we changed the business, we stopped saying we're a production company, and we started saying we're an agency. And only then did the brands take us seriously. Because until you understand the relationship between agency and brand, you can't do anything. The agenda is different, right? A production company's agenda is to make content, is to put their content out in the world and hope people see it. The agency's agenda is to not get fired by the brand, right? So understanding that your job as an agency is to protect the brand. You're the bodyguard. And now, the interesting thing is, the business model of the agency conflicts with the business model of branded content. Because the agency wants to make more commercials, right? And they want to buy media because it's easy. So only until the brand says, this is where we have to go. We're seeing that commercials aren't working so much anymore. We're seeing lots of other opportunities. It's only until the agency says, oh, we're going to get fired if we don't do this, other stuff. They start innovating, and they start pushing forward. Because there's agencies like mine who are going to call the brand and say, hey, you should be doing this. And they get off the phone with me, and they call their existing agency. And so then they go, oh, the more times they get that phone call, the more times they're going to say, wow, we need to do that, because the client keeps asking. So in my opinion, the agency has to drive it forward. They are the midfielder. Somebody said that earlier. They are the anchor point. And if you don't get the backing of the agency, it'll never work. Not sustainable. You'll always find some brands who want to do things differently, who want to experiment, and that's fine. But if you're looking for a long-term sustainable business model, the agency has to be the driving force. Okay. Anyone else? Now they're coming in. Now the questions are happening.
Are you on? Well, this is a question that has to do with this question. You said that the agency, was it your usual agency, or is it a different model of agency that has been set up? Is it a completely new thing? This came from McCann or Legornet, or is this a sort of American aftershare that created all of this? I would also believe you if you were to say that.
It always starts with a rebellion, right? It always starts with some young little companies who disrupt. They come in and they go, no, 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 you idiots, this is not how to do it. You got to do it like this. Okay, slowly, 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 you start to change the dynamic. So for us, we were a small agency. Now we're a pretty big agency. A month ago, we were acquired by Publicis, #3 global advertising agency in the world, because they took notice. And so slowly but surely, change comes from disruption, because the big agencies want to keep doing what they're doing. They want to make their commercials, they want to place their media, they want to make their commission, and that's okay, that's their business. But it's only until the clients start asking. So that means we need little agencies to pull on the shirt and go, you brands, do it this, people are doing this. And slowly but surely they pay attention. So it starts with some disruption, it starts with some small agencies, medium-sized agencies, and then all of a sudden you see large global agencies buying companies like mine, large global agencies launching internal branded entertainment groups, things like that. So it's a ripple effect, and it starts from the young and the hungry, the folks that somebody else on the panel said, you know, when a business model is shaky, when a business model starts to crumble, some folks go, hey, this is an opportunity. There's a way for us to change the world. And we said that at Big Fuel about 7 years ago, and it took us a long time. It took us a long time to fight and to push forward. And only 3 years ago did people start to listen. Okay? I think there was one more question over there, and then maybe we can wrap up before.
Un factor.
Well, there's a very important factor that has not been mentioned today that has to do with the legal side of things, of brand contents, because I think that we have lots of lack of knowledge and we're not very sure about this scenario. We're not very sure if a brand can become the main title behind a show, or how much presence there can be of a brand on a program. So to what extent that brand is considered to be a commercial. I suppose that in the United States the thing is completely different. Is there an influence in this? Or how do you facilitate this, or how do you go about things when you create brand contents?
That's a complicated question, okay, and probably not one I have a lot of time for, but the quick answer is you get into kind of rights, clearances, legality questions when you start dealing with talent, music, when you start co-opting other formats of content. But a brand, like anybody else, can go and create whatever they want, right? An advertisement, when a commercial, whether you like it or not, is content. It might not be the best content, but it's content. So the same legalities that apply to creating a commercial also apply to creating branded content. It's a little bit more complicated, because what starts to happen is when you get talent endorsing products, things like that, it gets a little bit more complicated. I'm certainly not familiar with how it is in Spain or in Europe, but in the United States, there are opportunities to get a good lawyer and work through the kinks, but it's definitely doable and it's not prohibitive. It's not something that should stop you. Okay. Cool. Somebody's holding a hand up right there.
Hi, my name is Jaime. I'm from Aftershare, and I would like to ask you something. I'm convinced about this, and this is why I joined Aftershare. I'm convinced that branded contents is something that has to arrive in Spain, because I think that this is what the consumers want. You have more years of experience in this field, and I would like to know your views. And do you think, at what level are we? Is the situation very poor here? Or can we feel optimistic about what's going on? Because I think that the people that were talking about TV stations and about production companies, there's a certain amount of reluctance, because somebody has to take the first step, and I agree with you, it has to be the agencies. But the difficult thing will be for each one to renounce certain things. So they have to accept that, because I think that until now, each stakeholders knew what their business was all about. But now, with this new business model we're facing, it means that everybody has to work simultaneously to achieve a common goal, and everybody has to do their bit. So to what extent, or what do you think each one should renounce? And in particular, what should agencies do as the leaders in this process to start off?
Well, so that's a long question to answer, but what it comes down, honestly, it comes down to money, okay? We're talking about advertising, and advertising is about selling. So at the end of the day, it's a business. And the business is driven by the brand. And so you have to, it always starts with some brands who are a little bit more experimental. They're a little bit more proactive. Some younger CMO comes in and says, you know what, I'm going to do things differently. And it's agencies like Aftershare who have to find those opportunities and push those things forward. It's a difficult process. It's like pushing a big rock up a hill. For a little bit of time, we did that. It took me 4 years of saying, hey, you have to pay attention, and doing small projects, small wins, quick victories. And until you can show success, people won't listen, because the global media companies, advertising and media companies, their business model is what it is. They sell advertising. They make commercials, they make print ads, they make online banners, and that's what they're driving. That's what they're pushing forward. And what ends up happening is when you have an opportunity for branded content or even social media or whatever new and cool thing that comes out there, the media companies or the agencies will take the youngest person that works for them and they promote them. And they say, you are now in charge of branded content. And nobody's going to listen to a young kid who has no experience. And so it's about experienced people who believe in a different future, pushing forward a new ideology, a new way of thinking. And when you do it, here's a trick. When you do it, don't discount the other stuff. Don't tell anybody that that doesn't work anymore, because it's wrong. It all works. It's about understanding the audience, the media, the method, the objective, and putting together the right plan and the right approach. And for a long time, we went out there and we said, this model's broken. You can't do it anymore. Don't listen to those guys. And those are the guys that control the dollars. Those are the guys who look at us and go, no, we don't want to talk to you because you're our threat. But what happens is, if you, as a young agency, trying different and new things, the best thing you can do is make those guys look good. The best thing you can do is make them make more money. Have their clients be happier about working with them. And all of a sudden, you become partners. And they look to you for support, and you look to them for support. And that's the trust that everybody's talking about that's lacking. Because right now, it seems like, and even in the US, it's still the same, it's a fight. It's a fight over the dollar or the euro or whatever. It's a fight for the same money. And until you can sit down at a table and look each other in the eyes and say, you know what? If we don't do this together, we're both going to fail. And that takes experienced people. It takes people with knowledge, with courage to actually do that. It doesn't take the young 25-year-old person who just got promoted, who is now head of branded content at McCann. You can't do it. So, I don't know if that answered your question, but okay. Thank you very much.